transition right now, can you go ahead and drop a 1 in the chat? So you are actively looking for a job, you are currently in transition. If you are, kind of looking for your next step, you're working, but you're also maybe looking for a new job, a new career, drop a 2. Drop a 2 in the chat. And if you are on the call today as a career services professional, a volunteer, a speaker, then could you drop a 3 in the chat? Would love to see what we have today. Great, we have a good mix. We have a lot of people that are actively in career transition. I know that there's been some hits to the unemployment rate, so we are seeing a little bit of an increase there for layoffs. And so, if that's you, I'm glad you're here today. It's a hard space to be in. We know that to be true. But Career Connectors was launched. I launched it 17 years ago as a volunteer initiative, and over the last 17 years, we have been able to help people get to their next step. So, a couple things about technology as we move on. I want you to go ahead and look on the bottom of your screen again. You saw the chat box. There is also a closed captioning that is available if you would like that. Sometimes the closed captioning is under a box, an icon that says more, and depending on which version of Zoom you have. So use that icon. You'll also be using that icon to look for the breakout rooms, which are going to happen later later in the call today. And so um, there are a couple things. And then let's see. Where else? We have other people. Okay, great. People are still introducing themselves. The other thing I would love for you all to do is drop in your LinkedIn URL. So some of you have already done that. Thank you, Dan, Dulce, thank you. So you guys can see from their links, and a couple people did it above, that we need you to drop in the blue link from your LinkedIn profile. And so what I'm going to do is in the chat, I'm going to put the instructions on how to do that, but it's really simple. You basically open up a browser and you go to your LinkedIn profile and you just copy the URL that is in the search bar. And then you copy it and you paste. And so I'm going to drop mine in there. I would love to connect with you all. And that way, it is one way that we can connect with each other in this virtual environment since we're not in person. We know that a huge percentage of jobs, we hear up to 70 to 80% of jobs are landed through somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody. So this is part of the know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody process. And so keep showing up, keep connecting. Today, we're going to hear from Carrie Bryson, and she's going to talk about from invisible to in demand, building your personal brand on LinkedIn. So she may talk more about that connection as well. And then Sam Wright is here from Huntr, and he's going to talk about AI job search. And he has some reports he's going to share with us and some great information. So excited about that. We will close the call out about 10:20. And then after that, we will move into breakout sessions. And what the breakout sessions are, they are separate Zoom rooms where you can go in, talk to a professional resume writer, talk to our great LinkedIn coaches, our career coach. We have some finance coaches. We have representation from Best Companies AZ, which is an organization that supports clients all over the US and is hiring for companies that are award-winning companies. So we have lots of opportunities for you all to connect today. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'd like to introduce our first speaker, and Carrie's going to come to the stage, and then we will move on after Carrie, and we'll move into Sam, and then we will move into the breakout sessions. But I encourage you all to stay active on the chat. If you have a question, a thought, a comment, if you want to reach out to somebody, do that all on the chat. And we will be moderating the chat. We have experts on the call right now. In fact, many of them that have that put a 3 in the resource, or when I asked that question earlier, are people here to support you. And so we have professional resume writers already on the call. And so if you want to ask questions in the chat and they're starting to answer them, that's what they're there for. And so Carrie is going to obviously be our keynote, our first keynote, but you can drop questions in the chat and we will try to answer them. So use the chat today. Carrie Bryson is an expert job search strategist, a LinkedIn trainer, speaker, and founder of Align to Success. She is passionate about helping professionals build powerful brands, navigate career transitions, and position themselves for new opportunities with confidence. Through her expertise in resume strategy, LinkedIn optimization, networking, interview coaching, and career branding, Carrie equips job seekers with the tools and strategies needed to stand out in today's competitive market. And her engaging, results driven approach has helped professionals turn kind of the stalled job search into meaningful career success. She's known for delivering results, empowering audiences to recognize their value, and helping individuals create career momentum with clarity, confidence, and purpose. I recently met Carrie and was thrilled and encouraged by her ability to bring hope and encouragement. So, Carrie, we are so glad to have you here today. Please help me welcome Carrie Bryson.
Thank you so much for that wonderful intro. I appreciate that so much. I am excited to be here with everyone today. And so let me start a little bit. So Jessica certainly said a little bit about me, but let me also share this because I think that this is really important, which is that I've been in your shoes and this is what happened. So in 2020, in the pandemic, right, there were so many of us. I was actually laid off from a job that I completely loved. I loved my company. I love the people. I love what we were building. And we were building teams from the ground up, which is kind of my passion. And so I was super taken aback when I actually had that conversation. And I remember what that felt like, right? Like your heart is in your stomach and you're just thinking, oh my gosh, all the people that I was working with, I don't get to work with. And then you're like, self-doubt, right? Starts to creep in. And so here's what I did. So I knew that I needed a week to just sort of process all of this stuff, right? And so then as I began to think, I'm like, okay, wait, think about this. I have a 30 plus year career working with startups and established organizations, and I've hired thousands of people. I've, looked and reviewed hundreds of thousands of resumes and worked with 500 plus managers. And the thing that always got me excited was that I always believed in my companies and supported everything that we were doing. And so I knew that if me and my team were going to, hire people, that we were going to change your life because you get to actually be part of our organization. And so it dawned on me, I have all these skills. I need to figure out a way to go and help job seekers today, especially in 2020 when the pandemic, right? And so that's when I actually started and founded Align to Success and why I'm here today to actually share this. So here's the other thing I'd like to also say, because two things. Don't stay there in that place, right? Because you have to feel the feelings, right? It's definitely part of it. You feel the feel, take some time to process, and then come back and turn around and start your job search, right? And also know that when these things happen, it doesn't define who you are as a person, right? But it just helps you know that there's another next step in your career journey, right? Here's the other takeaway. I loved everything about what I was doing, but, and you've all heard this, probably heard this quote, when one door closes, another one opens. And that is so true. I actually have more fulfillment today than I ever could have imagined by doing something that I'm super passionate about. And so that's the other piece to also help guide you as you're going through this transition. As Jessica said, it's a difficult place to be, and we're all here and just know that you're not alone and that we're here together. I always like to start out with a quote, and so this one actually is really, really a representative of kind of what we're going to talk about today, right? And so this is it. Your brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. And so let me give you an example of what I mean. So think about your favorite cereal. So for example, let's think of Frosted Flakes. When you think about Frosted Flakes, first thing that comes to my mind is Tony the Tiger saying they're great, right? Like you can just see him bouncing around, right? Another one, cell phones, Verizon, the commercial that always says, "Can you hear me now?" When you hear that, instinctively you may think of Verizon, right? And so that really is memorable, right? But here's some real life examples for you as well. And some of you guys may know some of these people if you're on LinkedIn. Brenda Meller of Meller Marketing, her one of her slogans is this: she's helps you get a bigger slice of the LinkedIn pie. When I think of Brenda, I think of LinkedIn Pie, right? Another one, Jeff Young. He's also on LinkedIn. I think of him, and he's the LinkedIn guru, which, by the way, his community called him that. So Jeff Young, I think of the LinkedIn guru. Another quick one, Al Smith, the hired guy. Again, his community named that for him. So you see how just being memorable in just a few words really does make you think about it, even if you're not actually, on the platform, right? So we already talked about me. I would love to connect with you guys. I did put my information in the chat as well. Love to connect with you on LinkedIn and other ways to reach out to me as well. So I just want to talk a little bit about this career positioning framework, what this is. When clients work with me, this actually describes exactly what we do together. And we're going to touch on a couple of these pieces. So I'm only going to spend a few minutes here and explain it so that it makes sense. So the positioning piece we're going to actually hit on today, because that's where you actually define your value, right? And define and get clarity on what it is that you do, the impact that you bring to organizations, and how you can actually help help companies with the solutions, be the solution for what they're looking for. We need to define that positioning piece before we move on. This is how I want you to think about it. Think about building a house. If you have a foundation of a home and it is not strong, that entire building could potentially fall down. The positioning piece is going to be the foundation, okay? And then the visibility piece, we're going to touch on this today too, because that's where you create your tools. Once you're clear on your value, your impact, and what, the positioning that you want, then you continue, then you start to build the tools. You start to build your resume, your LinkedIn, and so we're going to talk about LinkedIn a little bit today. So we're going to cover those pieces. And then the relationships. We also know, and Jessica actually touched on this too, is that usually, one of the best ways to actually find a new opportunity in this current job market isn't necessarily sending hundreds of resumes. It's really having conversations in your network with people that you know, reaching out to people that you don't know, right? So that's a really big part of it. And then, of course, the interview stage as well. Here's the thing, if you have a great resume and you have a great LinkedIn, if you can't go in and actually articulate in an interview what it is that you're all about, you will not be successful and you'll get disqualified. So the whole point is together, they all create job offers. If one piece is missing, that's where you're actually going to see a breakdown and it's going to end up taking you longer to get to where you want to go. So a lot of times people think of LinkedIn as they think of it as really a resume holder. And how many people say, put a one in the chat. I mean, have you ever thought in your career it's just a place for a resume? Put a one in the chat if you've ever thought that. And it's actually so much more than that. I mean, think about it this way. It is actually the world's largest professional networking site out there, right? And think about all the other places job boards that you go to find, potential opportunities. None of those other locations actually allow you to connect with people in the companies, in the organizations that you're looking to get into potentially. Okay. Here's the thing. There's over 1 billion plus users, professional, and that's an incredible number, first of all. The other thing is 67 million plus company pages. That's a lot of companies because the other thing that we know that's happening in this market is that companies sometimes aren't even, before they even post, they're actually going and sourcing on LinkedIn. And so that's also something that's happening. 9,000 plus connections every minute. That's a lot. But here's the other cool thing, 8+ minutes average of people actually visiting the site. That just means that they're staying. People are commenting, they're sharing, they're looking for people, they're wanting to connect with people. So it just gives you a great opportunity to do that too. Here's the thing. If recruiters cannot find you, they cannot hire you. So when we talk about visibility, that's going to be really important here. The cool thing about today is that I'm going to go through some strategies to help you with your profile. You literally can take away what we learned today and actually make changes today or tomorrow. And you will actually start to see some visibility change in your profile. So that's actually the cool part about it, right? Excuse me. So let's talk about the visibility piece because that is really important. If you can't, again, if they can't find you, right? That's why we want to optimize your profile. That's why it's so important. You're literally 21 times more You can get 21 times more profile views by optimizing your profile. These are real numbers through LinkedIn too. They may even have changed since I created this. You get 36 times more engagement because people can see you, right? 71% higher chance of getting interviews, because here's what happens. Recruiters are using the same link, they use the same platform to actually source and find you. And so that's why that's so important. They're using all the same database. And so when they can actually, when it's optimized, that actually helps them be able to find you better, quicker, easier, faster. So this is what I would like to say. So this is how I want you to think about LinkedIn. Remember how people typically think of it, right? Think of LinkedIn as your storefront to the world. As you look at this picture, there's a candy shop. It's in an open area, right? And oh, by the way, there's a whole wall of jelly beans in this store. You love jelly beans, and you're thinking, maybe I want to go in and see if they have a new flavor. Oh, and by the way, your son loves jelly beans, so you might just pick him up some jelly beans too, because you're like, that would be a nice treat. So it actually brings you in, it entices you to actually come in and check it out. That's what we want your LinkedIn profile to do, right? We want people to come and land on your page and say, wow, I really understand what Mary's all about. I'm super interested. I'd love to learn more about her. That's exactly what we want that LinkedIn profile to do, okay? Here's another way I want you to look at it. It tells your story, and you guys may have heard this too. It does not have to be exactly like your resume. There are some pieces that need to correlate, like job titles and dates and companies should be similar. But this gives you the opportunity to show your personality and share a little bit about yourself that you can't necessarily do. You have a whole about section that is not a resume, right? That gives you that opportunity to do that. And that's what we want to do. Again, we want to make it a storefront and entice them to come in. And then when they go and they search, they're going to be like, oh my gosh, this person looks amazing. I want to have a conversation with them. So just another way of reframing it, I kind of said this, right? That your LinkedIn profile is not a resume. This is a different way to think about it too. It's actually your marketing tool to help share with the world who you are, what you do, who you serve, and the value that you bring. Okay. And it gives you an opportunity to be creative. And just like, the few people that I mentioned, they're very specific. I think of them when I think about LinkedIn and who they are, right? So that can be so impactful. Here's the other thing. Who wouldn't want who put in the chat a number one? How cool would it be to have someone reach out to you on LinkedIn and say, "Hey, Mary, I just saw your profile and I really like what I saw, and I'd love to start a conversation with you." How many people would love to have that happen? Exactly. Okay. So this is kind of where the career positioning comes in, right? So there's three different pieces to it. There's differentiation, there's value, and there's visibility. Okay. And clarity and confidence do play a key role in building trust when you're actually out there presenting and representing who you are to people, right? And so your profile should clearly do that. So here's an example. Discover what your difference is. Identify the strengths, experience, and perspective that make you different. Because here's the thing. There could be 50 million people that do what you do, but no one thinks of it different. No one thinks of it like you do. So you have a different perspective. That's what I want you to focus on. Communicating your value, positioning your expertise and accomplishment so employers immediately see your value. Here's the thing. They don't necessarily want to know your whole history. They want to know when they look at you, the first thing they're going to say is, do I envision this person in my role or in my company or part of my team? Or do I see them as someone who can help me solve for what I'm looking for? That's what they're looking for. And then I've gone again, become memorable, right? Tell your story. And you guys, I'm a visual person, so I'm going to have examples for you here. Just makes it easier. So I actually have an example of this in real life. This is an example for a project manager. You could say something like from the discover your difference, right? Delivering complex technical solutions on time and under budget while navigating cross-functional team dynamics. Okay, that's the first step. And then communicating the value. I won't read through all those, but you can see it tells specifically what the person did, giving percentages and showing, quantifying what it is that they're talking about, right? And then becoming memorable and why exactly this made them specifically special in what it is that they were doing. Okay. 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 So let's play a game. This is what I want to do. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put a picture up, okay? And I want you to think about, we're talking about branding, so I want you to think about the first thing that comes to your mind. Don't say anything, just keep it in your mind. Don't think too hard. But think of the first thing that comes to your mind and keep it in your mind, and then we'll go over the results next, okay? So I'm gonna tell you one word, and I want you to think about the first thing that comes to your mind. When I say the word shoes, what do you think about? Just keep it in your mind. Okay. When I say computer, what's the first thing you think about? When I say soda pop, okay, now this just depends on where you were raised. I call it soda. Some people call it pop. They're both right. I call it soda. So when you think about soda, what is the first thing that you think about? Okay. So what was your first thought? So how many of you, I actually saw this in the chat, how many of you thought Nike, right? And here's the thing. And it could be a different brand that you love, but here's the point. Point is that that brand is so significant that it takes one word and it actually makes you think about what that is. How powerful is that? Okay, the next one. Yeah, I see a lot of people that said Nike. Okay. When I said computer, who thought about Apple? Say yes in the chat or put Apple in the chat if you actually thought about Apple, right? Again, and maybe it was Dell or maybe it was HP or maybe it was whatever one that's most relevant for you. That's great. But here's the thing, it's such a memorable brand that you automatically think about it just by one word. Okay, when I said soda or pop, what was the first thing you thought about? Tell me in the chat. What was the first thing? Pepsi. Yeah, Pepsi. I see Pepsi. Coke, Cherry Coke, Coke, Coke. Dr. Pepper. Exactly. My point is this. Again, these brands are so specific and they do such a great branding that you actually just have to say one word to actually think about what those are. So that's what we're talking about. That's how powerful it can actually be. Okay. So the LinkedIn sections we're going to go through today. Now, listen, there's definitely more sections than this. With our time together, we can't go through all of them. So I did pick the most critical ones. So we're going to talk a little bit about your professional headshot, background banner, your headline, your featured section, a little bit about skills, and then a little bit about relationships. Okay. And again, as I mentioned, I'm a visual person, so I'm going to show you real good examples, but you can literally take away and take your notes and make the changes today, and you'll start to see a difference. Okay. So first we're going to talk about your professional headshot. Now, one of the biggest things that I see people make is either they don't actually have a picture, right? Or they have a picture of them with something else in the background and I can't really see their face. And the reason that this is important is that you are your brand and people want to see your face, right? And so this makes you human. This makes you, it just makes it relatable. People can actually, and it's smile, right? So here's what you want to do. Your face should literally fill 70 to 80% of that picture, okay, in the frame. Always should smile. It just makes you more approachable, right? And then what that does from a branding perspective, it builds immediate trust and authority, right? And so I have some examples for you of what this looks like. Actually, first we're going to we're going to look at what not to do. Okay. So this is kind of what I see people do. And one of the big mistakes that I see, either no picture. And then the other two examples, I mean, these are great pictures, but I can't really see the person. And when anywhere you go on LinkedIn, your picture follows you, right? So if you're commenting, you're posting. And so anywhere that you do those things, they can actually see your picture. And so it just makes them able better. It makes them, they can see you better by actually having your face show in that circle. So that's why that's important. And so then, of course, here's a great example of what it looks like to, they're smiling, their face pretty much fills the whole circle. That's kind of what we want it to look like. Here's the thing. You don't have to have a professional person come and do your picture for you. Listen, just have someone take a picture, on your phone, right? And actually, and I know a lot of people do AI pictures, that's totally personal choice, but but you can also just have someone take a photo of you close up and put on a nice shirt and have a black, a neutral background, and you're good to go. You have options. Doesn't have to be super difficult to do. You can do it today. You can do it when we're done with this. You can do it when we're done with this call, right? Okay, my mouse is going crazy a little bit here. Hold on here. For some reason, Sheila, my mouse is not. There you go. Thanks. Okay. So next, let's talk about your headline and how this is really prime real estate. Okay. And there's a couple things here that are really important. So the headline is the wording right under your picture. The reason this is important, the first 60 characters follow you again everywhere you go in your profile, right? And so if you're commenting or sharing or posting or getting in groups and having conversations, right? Um, it follows you everywhere you go. If you make a comment somewhere and someone's like, I really love that comment, and they literally can see what you do, right? Then they might be thinking, hey, I love that, what they just said, and it might compel them to want to reach out to you. And when I say that, it's because it happens every week. I mean, I have people reach out to me every week, but also it's definitely a great thing to do, and they can understand who you are better. Here's my recommendation. The title that you use should be your target title for the jobs that you're actually targeting. So a lot of people put just their current title, and it may not be relevant. You might be looking for something different. So that title should actually be the title that you're targeting. And then I like to kind of have a statement in there, or like a branding statement that sort of explains a little bit about who you are and your impact and the value that you bring. Just a short sentence that you can put in there. And then some key highlights that are relevant, again, for the roles that you're targeting, that will help people understand very quickly who you are and what you do. So let's give you another example. So now, if this was my headline, it says LinkedIn trainer, recruiting HR professional. Here's what I want you to notice. Looking at that could be 50,000 people. Am I right? Do you agree? Put a 1 in the chat if you agree with me. Is that super generic? Exactly. So now let's look at something that looks far different. So now I'm literally telling you what it is that I do, right? And who I help, and a little bit more specific information about me. So that, and again, the first 60 characters follow you. So if I'm commenting, people can really see exactly what I do, and it may want them to reach out to me. And so that's why that is so important. And so the order does also matter. I will say that too. Okay, let's talk a little bit about your banner. So this is how I want you to think about the banner behind your picture. Think about driving down the freeway and you see a sign that is on the freeway, right? A billboard that is it's advertising a new hotel or a new restaurant or something that you're really interested in. And someone else is driving and you're like, oh my gosh, that looks so amazing. I need to check that out. I need to go see and learn about where that's at. I want to go there, right? So you're literally on your phone and you're like checking it out, right? Because you want to go see it. So think of your banner as your billboard to your career, okay? And it should clearly state, again, give them some information about what you do. Again, this is a great place to talk about your impact, how you've actually helped companies solve problems, right? Keep it simple. The other thing I see people do is they put way too much information in there. And the reason that doesn't work is that if the eye has too many places to go, it's not going to get the right message. It's going to read the wrong things, right? Make them feel what you stand for. That's going to make a difference as well. And again, I have examples. So this is a really good example of what one would potentially look like. So his name is there, he has his title, and then he literally lists some of the three top areas of his expertise. So if I'm just scanning, I can see that super quickly. It's bold, it's a different color, it's eye-catching. That's what we're talking about. We actually want that to be able to, you actually want to be able to see that, okay? The mistake that I see people make, they don't have anything back there. They have nothing on there. It's just a blank slate. And again, that's just prime real estate that's being wasted and it actually can help you. And again, we want someone to stop there and say, "Oh yeah, I want to talk. I want to read more about this person. I'm really interested in what they have to say." Here's another good example. It's specific, it's to the point, it's bright, and tells exactly who she is and what she does and how to reach her. And so that's always a great way to do it too. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about your featured section. How many of you guys in here, tell me, how many of you use your featured section right now? How many of you actually have used it right now? Put a one in the chat if you know what I'm talking about. Okay, good. I see a lot of people that do use it. So with my clients, I find a lot of times when we go through LinkedIn, they don't even know what I'm talking about. And so this can be really important in job search. And let me tell you why. Your featured section actually comes before like your job description and your job areas. And so, and you can be really specific about what you want them to see. And so this is how it can be helpful. Visibility creates attention, right? So it could be that they see something there, they want to engage with that. Proof actually creates that ability for people to say, I'm interested to learn more about what they do, right? You can showcase, so people say, okay, well, what do I put there? Here's an example. You could put, for example, if you won an award, or if maybe you wrote an article, maybe you posted something on your profile and it had really good engagement with people and it seemed to resonate, you could actually feature that in your featured section. Here's another great reason to use your featured section. I highly recommend, if you're in job search, that you create a one-page marketing document. And so what is that? It's not a resume. And what this is, it's just a one-page document with basically your contact information, high level, the types of positions that you're looking for, and then the impact that you brought to an organization, and then also maybe some successes. So just one page. And here's why that's important. As you are networking and having conversations with people, it does two things. You can put it here in your featured section, again, because it's something, these are things maybe you don't even have on your resume. And at this point, they don't have a resume necessarily if they're just looking at your profile. So you can highlight some of those things here. Okay. What it does is when you're having and this has actually happened where I had a client that she was talking to a friend and he said, "Yeah, I have this person. I would love to introduce you to that person." And she said, "Okay." She said, "Here's," she actually shared her information. So that person knew exactly what she was looking for. And that actually helped that person identify who could be a potential fit for her. Because here's the reality, people want to help you. Generally people want to help. And so the more clear that you can be about that, the better they know how to help you. And that's really important. But again, that's something that you can put here in your featured section as well. Okay. I have an example. So, for example, on my profile, like was giving a presentation, and so I wanted to highlight that. You don't even have to leave my profile to book a call with me because it's right here, right? And then, of course, I have a newsletter, so that's where specific for me. But you can see how, and this is kind of bright and pretty, and like that's the first that could really catch their eye. And so it just gives you an opportunity to share a little bit more about your credibility as well. So I want to talk about the skills section. And the reason that I want to talk about that is it's one of the most important pieces because, as I mentioned, remember when I said that there are recruiters on the back end using the exact same database that you are using in LinkedIn to optimize your profile, okay? And so they're searching for you using the same terminology. So when you use the market value terms, okay, you're literally 27 times more likely to be contacted. Here's the thing. So what am I talking about? What is a market value term? What that is, when you're in LinkedIn and say you are adding skills, or actually could be job titles, anywhere in LinkedIn where you have a drop-down menu. So when you start typing something, so if I'm in my skills section and I start typing marketing, it's going to bring up a whole list of things for me. So pick the skill, right, that is most relevant. And maybe it's not exactly the same wording from that drop down. And here's why that works. Well, here's why that's important. When you use those market value terms, those are the terms that the recruiters and hiring teams are using to source for you. And so you actually will show up higher in their searches because you actually are using the same words. Now, LinkedIn has changed a little bit. Okay, so what I mean by that is it's not just enough to have the skills section, right? Completely optimized. You also, those skills also need to be shown in the context under your jobs that you've actually worked to showcase where you've actually used those skills to be successful. So you do need to do both. So the market value terms are still very important though, because that's how you're being sourced, right? And then for sure, making sure that um, you're using those words also in your descriptions when you're explaining the value that you bring and how you help companies be successful. The other thing is there are multiple places on your profile to do this. So your about section, you can put 5 skills there and highly recommend that you do that too. And again, those skills should be relevant and towards the target roles that you're looking for. So that's really important. The next piece is under each of your jobs. You can then also list your skills, okay, for that specific to that role. So I would add them there. And then I would also go down to the skills section and make sure that they are all that you also have those listed for overall. Here's the thing that's changed. You used to be able to add in your about section and in the job descriptions, you actually have to have that skill in your skills section before you can add it to your about section and before you can actually add it to your jobs under each of your jobs. And so I would start by adding skills under the skills section and then go back up to your jobs and your about section and add them, the ones that are relevant. Here's the other thing that I see people make a mistake. I had a client, he loved baking. He had baking on it. He was a VP level person, had baking there. The first skill that showed up was baking. And that was a little confusing because people are thinking, he's a VP of sales and marketing. I don't get it. And so what you can do in the skills section is you literally can reorder them. And so I definitely, encourage you to go in and reorder and make sure that the ones that show at the top are most relevant, again, to the target roles that you're looking for. Now listen, so you may have project management 3 or 4, 5, 6 times in your profile, and that's okay. Again, think of it as, SEO for a website, right? And that just actually helps you show up higher in searches as well when you actually have that. So that's really important. The other thing about skills is that you can also get endorsements from people. And we all know people in our networks that know about us. They know what we do. They are familiar with our work. Go out and ask them to come and endorse you. Here's what happens. And all they have to literally do is go to your profile, go to your skills section and hit endorse on the things that they know you for and that they can help you with. Here's why this matters. It has also been proven that if you have three or more endorsements on a skill, it also will help you come up higher in that search. So, but what I think you can see, you guys, like this, and that's why I talk about the skills section, because there's so many places that it's important for the profile, and knowing how to optimize it properly is going to actually help you come up higher in searches when recruiters and hiring teams are looking for you, which is critical. That's how you gain visibility, right? And then using those market value terms to help you do that is where that's going to make a really big difference as well. And I know it's crazy. That's how powerful that the skills section is on your profile. And I did kind of talk about this, but this is great just for a visualization for you to see all the different locations where you can actually put your skills, and it's really important. And then obviously, even in your content, in your about section, right, you can actually add keyword terms there as well, which would be helpful. Again, with the way that the algorithm is today, it's not enough just to have the keywords. You actually need to show and prove that you actually worked, use that skill, right, to be successful. That's a really important differentiator. And again, it's quite new. And so this just sort of reiterates what I talked about is that skills get you found, right? And then the results get you hired. And so this is just a quick example of, okay, maybe I have project management, and then I literally have in my under my jobs, I literally have an example where I led, a $5 million implementation delivered ahead of schedule, right? So I'm literally showing examples of me in project management. That's going to be really important. So it's market value terms. This is the way to think about it. Market value terms plus the business result and consistency is how you get into more recruiter searches. And listen, I worked with a lot of my clients that, man, they might have 15 or 20 skills and they don't have it under their about section. They're missing it all throughout their profile. Here's what happens. I actually have some C-suite clients that want me to help them actually change all this. When I'm in changing their profiles for them, it is literally impacting their engagement scores as I'm doing it. And so that is real life. And so that's why that's so important. You'd be surprised. And again, if they cannot find you, they cannot hire you. So I want you to think about that. Let's talk a little bit about relationships and how impactful that this is. As I mentioned at the top of my presentation, we know that building our networks, which by the way, I don't really like the word network. I actually prefer the word building relationships. And again, that's another belief shift. I want you to think about LinkedIn as a place where you're actually building relationships with people. You're not just, it's not just a network, but I want you to think big, right? So I talk with my clients and they say, Carrie, I've reached out to everyone in my network. Okay, well, I want you to think bigger. Okay, I want you to think about the people that you know. Okay, and in your when you automatically think that, you think about people currently in your life. Okay, but I want you to think about this. If I have 20 years experience, there are plenty of people in my career that I have worked with and I had a really great relationship with. Listen, just like I got laid off from that company, I have tons of people in that organization that I would work with again in a heartbeat, right? And we had a great relationship. So think about even people 10, I don't care if it's been 10, 15 years, right? If you had a good relationship with them, get back in contact with them. Reach out and say, hey, you know what? I know it's been a long time and I see that you're working at ABC company now. I'd love to just catch up and see what you're doing and, see what you love about your new role, right? Here's the other thing that happens. When you work with people several years ago, there's a really good chance that maybe they're in a new position. Maybe they're in a management position. Maybe they're in a position to make decisions, right? That could potentially help you or not. Here's what happens. I want you to start with curiosity when you're reaching out to these people, okay? People are always and most people that I help, my clients, the reason they're intimidated is because they're like, it feels weird. It's awkward to ask for, to talk about needing a job. It's like I'm asking strangers for a job. That's not what I'm talking about. When you're building true relationships, it starts with curiosity. It starts with the person. Okay. And go check out their profile when you've identified people, or if it's someone that you know, again, that curiosity comes because you want to touch base with them. And here's what happens. When you make it about them, people ultimately are going to want, they typically are okay to connect with you, right? They want to talk with you, especially if it's in your current network. Here's what happens. When you start conversations, the conversation is going to come, it's going to come up in conversation. Well, what are you doing? What are you doing today? Audrey, what are you doing? What are you looking to do? And so it comes up in conversation. And so that's going to happen. And then you can share. And again, you now have a marketing document that you can share with them too, right? So here's what I would say about your current network. Think bigger. Don't think just the people that you know today that you worked with in the last year. I want you to think bigger picture there. Okay. And start with those people first and start having conversations, because this is what I know. And I tell you this because it's been my experience. It's been my client's experience. And this is what it is. You can have conversations that can potentially open up opportunities you never even imagined. And let me give you an example in my real world, which is simply this. I was I'm on LinkedIn and I'm commenting. I had a friend, she's actually a colleague now, and we met on LinkedIn, and everything that she was saying was exactly what I was saying, right? And so I was like, how is it that this person says exactly what I would say? So we eventually decided, oh, let's just get on a conversation. Let's just have a quick chat. We did. So we talked, right? We are colleagues, but here's what happened. It actually turned into a revenue stream for me that I never even could have thought about. And that was never the intent of the call. My intention was like, I think we're crazy because we think too much alike. Let's have a conversation. That was how we started, right? So here's why that's important. The same thing can happen in job search. You're talking to someone. Here's another example. I actually had this is real life story. I had a client. She went to the grocery store, ran into someone that she used to work for. They got into a conversation. They realized that she was still looking. This is what happened. They said, you know what? They said, I don't actually have an opening today, but I'm going to create a position for you. And no joke, this was on a Tuesday. She started the next Monday working for that company. Okay. So I also want you to, that is, again, that is incredible. If it was in a grocery store with someone that she used to work with, how powerful is that, right? Here's another example that I would tell you is when you go, okay, it's summer. You go to barbecues, you go to parties, you um, go to your barber, you go to the movies, wherever you're around people, you're with family, you're with friends. Let everybody know that you're looking, because I also have people in my network that did not do that and realized there was someone in their network that they actually just had a wedding party with. They were in a wedding with them and realized that this person that was hugely connected to all of these opportunities. And so don't be afraid to tell people, even in your close circles, about, that you're open to opportunities as well. Okay. And that will absolutely make a difference. And so that's how I kind of want you to think about when you think about reaching out to people. And again, networking is not the word that I like. I like to think about relationships because they create opportunities. And attending live events like this event here, I mean, there's so much learning that you can do, so many connections you can make. Jessica has you guys putting in your LinkedIn. Reach out to these people, start a conversation. You just never know how you might be able to help each other out, support each other, and know the other thing that does too, especially with someone that's in the same position you are, you're not alone in that, because it can be a lonely road, right? And so you're never going to be alone when you actually start to have conversations as well. Okay, and that's really all I had. And I'm super excited to be here. I've been following Jessica's group for quite a while. I actually love to attend and I get incredible learnings, but also to help support all of you guys as well and support Jessica. So I'm happy to be here and thank you guys for attending today.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Carrie. I have a couple questions that came up in the chat I'd love to throw your
Sure,
way since we have a couple minutes.
you
Um,
bet.
the first one is a couple people were asking a little bit more information about the featured section. For example, how often should that be changed out, or is there a max? Do you know any, like, give us some guidance on that?
Yeah, so Yeah, I think that you could update it for what I would say is this. Use it for that one page marketing sheet that I talked about, but like as you're creating content on your profile, I would update it. Yeah, with because here's what that does. It shows your thought process. And yeah, I would change it out. I would change it out often, maybe even like once or twice a month or um if it's content, you could change the content piece out every week based on what you're posting, right? And again, it just shows, it gives people a good idea of, the kind of things that you're really good at and your expertise, right? And you are limited, I think, to how much you can put out there, but I do recommend that you keep it updated. And if it's something that's been there for a month, they can probably see that too. If it's something that if it was one of your posts that you created, right? But definitely keep your marketing, and you can actually order. You can place it the order in which you want those things to show. So at the first box, always have your marketing document there, and then two or three other things. I wouldn't put a whole lot up there because that might be confusing. But you can see three in the window, so put at least three things. If you put three things there, that is perfect, right? And yeah, it's just a great way to feature yourself in a different way and show your expertise and credibility.
Okay, and then one more is more on the head, more information on headline. So we know there's a lot of
Yeah.
letters we can use in the headline. Would you recommend someone putting in any skills on the headline?
Absolutely. You can put in, I call them like competencies, right? So if you have your target title, right, that would be first. And then just a one-liner really about the value that you bring to any org, and that would be relevant to any organization, right? And then, yes, specifically, you could add a couple of I call them competencies that are more broad that can actually help people understand how you help organizations. You can absolutely do that. That would actually be a good thing.
Great. And then actually another one just came up. I'd love to talk about this for a second because this is all about the connection. The connection is so important to reaching out. If we're reaching out to somebody we don't know on
Yeah.
LinkedIn, but we want to connect with them, so many pitches and sales come through LinkedIn, so it's hard to navigate that. But what is a good way to make that connection without feeling salesy?
Yeah. So this is what I want you to do. That's a really great question, by the way, and a really important one. This is what I want you to do. So, say you have a target list of 10 companies that you want to target that you want to work for. You go to the company page and you've identified, maybe three people in that organization that you're interested in talking to, right? So, this is what I want you to do. Always send a message, right? Because you're right, there's so many spam things that are out there, right? People typically don't respond if there is not a message, right? And so send a quick message. Here's how it should be structured. Again, and I even mentioned this, it should be about curiosity about them. You're not asking them for a position. I don't want you to say, hi, I saw your profile. I applied for this position and I'd love to talk to you. That's not what I want you to do. That's the wrong thing to do. What I want you to do, because you went and looked at their LinkedIn profile or you looked at the company, find something that is specific to that person that you can talk about. Okay, or something about their company's doing. Now, maybe they just opened up a brand new location. Okay. Or maybe this person specifically just got some type of award. You can then say, hi, Mary, I just saw your profile and I realized that you just got this new award. Congratulations. That's so exciting. And I love the industry that you're in. I'd love to just have a chance to talk with you for 15 minutes if you're open and connect with me. That's it.
Great. I love
Okay.
that, short and sweet. Okay, so there are lots more questions in LinkedIn or in the chat. So a couple things, you guys. Carrie is going to jump onto the chat as we move into the next speaker, and she'll start responding to some of these. And then during the breakout sessions, for your individual questions, jump over to our LinkedIn room. So of course, Carrie will be here. We also have Kitty Carlisle. She is one of our resident LinkedIn experts. And so you may jump into the room and talk to them. I've seen the question come up multiple times about, will you be sending out the PowerPoint slides or the this call information? We do not send the PowerPoint slides out due to our speakers' intellectual property, and also they're usually humongous files. But we will send you a link to this webinar playback, and that will be posted. It usually takes a couple hours to render, and it'll go up this afternoon. But you will, in your email, get a link directly to that. And a couple people have actually dropped those links in the chat as well. So thank you so much, Carrie. Round of applause for Carrie. Thank you for the great information and content today. We so appreciate you.
You're so welcome. Thanks for having me.
All right, thank you. All right, you guys, we're going to move on to Sam Wright, and he is the head of career strategy at Huntr, and drawing on proprietary data from 1.7 million applications, 1 million job postings, 243,000 resumes, and over 1,000 respondent surveys. Sam provides actionable data-driven blueprints to help professionals navigate today's fractured hiring landscape. He has conducted over 750 free support calls with job seekers, giving him frontline insight into today's job market. His work and insights have been featured in Business Insider, the Wall Street Journal, Forbes, and the Seattle Times. And outside the tech world, Sam is a part-time farmer from a 5-generation legacy of organic vegetable farming, and he is a passionate advocate for farmland preservation. I met Sam on LinkedIn, so I'm telling you, the stuff works that we're talking about. So he has some incredible stuff to share with us today. So will you please help me welcome Sam Wright to the call?
All right. Thank you so much, Jessica. And Carrie, wow, I learned so much from your presentation there. So truly thank you. Stuff I wish I knew when I just started getting more active on LinkedIn in the past year or two. You also felt like Chris Angel mind reader with the Coca-Cola, Nike, Apple. Yeah, branding really does work. Yeah, I'm Sam, and my goal for the short amount of time that we have here today is just to try and be as helpful as possible to all of you in your job search with data and with understanding AI tools, AI hiring on both sides, like what's going on with that. There's a lot of misinformation out there on LinkedIn, out there in the world. And if I could describe my own brand to folks on LinkedIn, and I would love to connect with all of you. It's data backed job search. So basically, what we saw here at Huntr a couple of years ago now, Huntr.co, we got started as a job search tracker. So it was a tool better than a spreadsheet to track and manage online job searches. And what we found when we started to also introduce a resume builder and resume building tools is we had access to a lot of really great data. We had where people are applying and with what resumes, and starting to use AI and how does that work. And what we realized is that a lot of LinkedIn or comments about resumes was really based on a lot of opinions that people had. Everybody and their uncle has an opinion, right? Like I remember my uncle around the Thanksgiving table giving job search advice to me and resume advice. Somebody who hadn't searched for a job in like 30 years. So we know that a lot of folks have a lot of opinions on this. What we are trying to offer is separating a little bit of the signal from the noise. So I would love to start by just hearing in the chat, if folks are in there, to share a little bit about your comments. I want this to be as dynamic as possible. So I'd love to hear if you're using AI in your job search, how you're using it, what you've heard, any sort of myths, anything about applicant tracking systems, anything like that, so I can just kind of understand where folks' heads are at, and what they're thinking about with regards to this. So I'm going to show you a little bit of our job search trends report. So this came from data that we gathered just this past quarter. This is hot off the press. Actually, we just published this yesterday on LinkedIn again. So check that out. A lot of findings that we have here. And one of the things that I just want to start just high level is about kind of job search time. I don't know if you all take a look, but briefly, there's a report out by the Bureau of Labor Statistics just on Friday, which showed that the unemployment rate started to go down, but we also saw the labor force participation rate start to go down as well, which means some folks are exiting the job market. Now, that's all. When I talk about kind of this data generally, what I want to provide is scope, is just to say, like, whether something is happening as a general trend in the country or in your state, or with somebody else, it doesn't really matter, right? What matters is your job search, your lived experience, and what are the best things that you can do as an individual to navigate the job market. So I'm seeing a few things in the chat here about, whether they're using AI, not using AI. I'm kind of scared of it because I don't understand it. I totally hear you on that. AI for resume analysis, job descriptions. Yeah, so this is great. Thanks so much for commenting here. So there's going to be a few things that I want to cover, and one of the first is about resume insights related to success factors. So Jessica mentioned those 1.7 million applications that we analyzed for job search success. It was mentioned on this call as well. About 70%, 50 to 70%, depending on the statistics that you look at, are jobs that are networking based jobs. And so everything that I'm going to be sharing with you today is staying on top of what Carrie's been asked, like all the great data and insights that Carrie shared. You should be networking, you should be reaching out to folks, you should be doing all of those things. And now we're also going to talk about the little sliver, the little niche that is resumes and what we should be doing with them. So, a tailored resume, this was one of the biggest things, apart from getting a referral, that you can do to impact your interview rates. So we saw folks that were tailoring their resume, saw almost a 2x increase in their application to interview conversion rate. So when I talk about application to interview conversion rate, what I mean by that is how many applications are you sending in order to get an interview? We looked at job search sites, so like LinkedIn. It's a great site for networking, great site for hiring managers. But we found the job board and people finding jobs and applying to them on LinkedIn isn't that great. What we actually found was about a 2%, 3% application to interview conversion rate across 200,000 applications analyzed. So that means 1 in 33 applications convert to an interview. So it's giving you a frame of reference. What we want to aim for and what's a good application interview conversion rate is about 5 to 10%. So you want to be applying to 10 to 20 roles and getting an interview. If you don't see that, then it's like, okay, let's take a look at that application material. Let's make sure your LinkedIn is looking good. Let's kind of pause and evaluate some of those things, evaluate what jobs you're applying to. So I can touch on this data here in a little bit. But yeah, thinking about like where you're finding the jobs, what you're looking at. But when we're talking about those resumes, so tailoring, what does tailoring actually mean? It means the summary section, the skills section, and the achievements. We are making sure that they match well to the job description. So you all might have heard, or maybe you've seen some stuff about keywords in a resume. So keywords in a resume tend to be things like this little section down here. You've got Salesforce, similar to the skills section that you have on your LinkedIn. And so you want to have that skills section that's well built out. We saw about 10 to 30 skills on average for an interviewed resume that match well to the job description. What I mean by matching well to the job description, and we have this Chrome extension that we use at Huntr to parse through a resume. To parse through a job description and say, okay, this is a job description here. We can start to do it by our eyesight here. Okay, Salesforce, that's a tool, that's a skill. CRM tools. We have this little tool that helps us parse and find that insight. So if you are using AI for your job search, what a lot of people think or what a lot of people are doing is just grabbing the resume that they have, putting it into ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, any of those tools, and then they're grabbing this job description and they're putting it into those tools, and then they're saying, great, make me a resume, that is tailored to match the job description. Now that is going to be because of the way that these large language models, these tools are built and designed. They're built off of every resume that they can get their hands on the internet. So we have all of this data, and it's going to say, okay, I've got this resume, I've got this job description, I need to fit these skills, and I need to fit this achievement, and I'm going to create this percentage out of the blue, an AI hallucination. because it's just trying to do what you all or what it thinks is going to lead to good interview rates. But what we actually see is if you're overusing keywords in your resume, if you're using those tools without some nuance, we see a decline in the application interview conversion rates when you have too many keywords covered in your resume. So this is going to, again, data that is coming hot off the presses here at Huntr, where we're looking and saying, yeah, you can use AI too much to over optimize, to over tailor. And what we miss out on that is the substance, right? The human aspect. So yes, Huntr has AI resume builder tool, and we're working to design and work with these tools intelligently to support folks in their search and tailor your resume to match the job description, because we have good data that is helpful, right? But we don't want to use it too much. So I liken AI in the job search as a tool like a hammer. And you can use a hammer to build a beautiful house. And you can also use a hammer to hit yourself in the thumb and it hurts really bad, right? So you can overuse these tools, you can misuse these tools. And so I really want to make sure that folks understand how we're using AI matters and what we mean by AI. So there's no such thing as like an AI written resume or a non-AI written resume. It's just a good resume or a bad resume. And a bad resume is one that generally looks like it was written by AI. So what do I mean by looks like it was written by AI? So there's a few telltale signs, with kind of an AI written resume. I don't have an example pulled up right here for you. But basically, actually, I can kind of showcase kind of in this tailoring service here. So when we're adding too many percentages, so you can be adding, and we talked about metrics and numbers with LinkedIn as well, right? Like you want to have some metrics and numbers, and about 40% of your bullet points based off our data should have quantified skills. So that's actually something that was interesting when we looked at interviewed resumes. We found that those that had higher success didn't quantify anything and everything was sort of packed with all these numbers, but there was a mix. There was a good mix. If you're using a percentage, make sure that it has kind of make sure that it has the context, right? For what you actually were doing with that role. How many people did it impact? What was the starting value versus the ending value? So kind of identifying the size, the scope, the scale of the work, the proof of impact. So that's like the rough amount. Yeah, Amy. So 40% of your bullets. It can be 40%, be 60%, but what you don't want to do is overstuff or have too much. Just generally, it's a good best practice to, based off of the data that we have, to make sure that you're varying and showcasing your skills in a good light. So another thing that I wanted to mention here with some of our data on resumes. One thing that I think is really important, and actually we talked about it, kind of is similar to the recommendation based off of in your LinkedIn when you're talking about your summary section. A lot of folks forget that they should be using their summary section as an aggregate of the most interesting and impactful things that you have done in your career as it relates to the job that you are applying to. So if I'm applying to a sales job, for instance, I can aggregate all of the revenue that I've had in sales over the past 7-8 years that I've been working in sales, and I can put that in my summary section. We actually found when we were looking at the data that when you have a numerical value written in your summary section, it can be helpful. So having numbers, and actually numbers, I've spoken to many recruiters and hiring managers. I'm going to get to that in a second here when I talk briefly about AI on the hiring side and what we know about applicant tracking systems. But I met with recruiters at Amazon, Microsoft, and a few big AI startup companies. And they all said the same thing. An actual number jumps off the page a lot better than writing out, the number. So really thinking about how we can kind of showcase the most interesting, impressive work that we've done as it relates to the job that we are applying to. Before I get into, again, please do drop anything in the chat, any questions. We'll get to that in a second here. But I want to just wrap up this side of things on the resume front with dispelling a few myths that we've seen in our data. So one is page length. We see generally, by and large, two-page resumes perform better than one-page resumes, except especially for folks outside of that 0 to 2 year bracket here. So there is a slight difference in terms of resumes. Like, basically what you should take from this data is it's not about keeping it to one page or really thinking about the specific words. It's about the quality of those words. So I liken this to like reading a good book. If you are really engaged in the book and the first page is great and the first sentence is great, you don't mind scrolling a little bit. And hiring managers on average spend about 6 to 10 seconds reviewing a resume. That's the general sort of data that we have on the kind of the hiring front and the study that was done there. And so we really want to grab attention with that summary section that has like a really great, really compelling hook that leads with impact. So thinking about like what's the aggregation, the most interesting, impressive thing that you've done in your career as it relates to the job that you're applying to. And then, 1 page, 2 page resumes, it doesn't matter as long as you're providing good, compelling insights. Again, this is data that we have now on millions of applications. So not just this quarter, but we also have an annual report. All of these are available on our website at huntr.co/research. So there's a lot of research on the best job boards, best job sites, and all of this insight into what makes a good resume. So awesome. Thank you. Yeah, see a few things in the chat here. We'll get to some of those questions in 1 second. The last couple of things on the resume side, career gaps. A lot of people ask a lot of questions about how to manage career gaps. We've all gone through the pandemic. We all are going through managing or navigating this new world with AI and the AI job market. Something that I wanted to share with y'all is, it's life, right? Having career gaps is very common. It is very normal. And we actually, when we were looking at over 50,000 resumes here, we found that there isn't a massive decline in application interview conversion rates or getting interviews based off of having a career gap. So hopefully that's a little bit helpful to folks. Addressing a career gap quickly and then moving forward is going to be kind of your best bet. Really focusing on the sort of the relevant work experience, the outcomes, that stuff is far more important. Career gaps are very common. Even just like demographically, we have an aging population in the United States. A lot more folks are taking care of sick relatives or older parents for longer. And so that's just a reality that we're facing in society today. So if that is you, I've personally had time that I've taken off to support family members. And so know that those gaps, we don't see a massive decrease, addressing them short, concise, and moving forward with why you're a great candidate for the role is always the best practice. Okay, so drop anything that you have on resumes, on best practices there, on using AI for resumes. I'm going to switch really quickly to the applicant tracking system side. So how applicant tracking systems work. And this is the other side of where a lot of folks have questions on, how to use these. And Carrie asked how to best describe career gaps within a resume so they aren't rejected by ATS. So perfect. Thanks for the question there, Carrie, because there's a lot of sort of myths out there around what an applicant tracking system is and how it actually works. So let's see here. If we're going through, like, I would love to hear folks say, do you believe, or if anybody has ever sent their resume and then got like a rejection, like very quickly. Maybe you put a 1 in the chat, or give me a yes, or a little insight there. But if you've seen that, so we've all kind of been there. It's like, it's Tuesday, it's 2 a.m. You send a resume, an application in, and then all of a sudden you get this rejection back really quickly. And so a lot of people have that experience, and then they're like, what happened, right? Like, and applicant tracking systems are usually something that comes up in Google. If you start asking, or if you start asking the AI or the LLMs, thinking about that after careful consideration. Yeah, after careful consideration, but it was a minute. What's actually happening there? So we have unique insight into these applicant tracking systems. Basically, we can see, and you've maybe seen the job sites that you're applying to. Sometimes the URL is going to be Greenhouse, Workday, which is an infamous one, Ashby, iCIMS, Workable, Lever. Like these are all tools that hiring managers use to sort of track applicants throughout the process and keep organized and use these tools. So when I started to get into this and see all of the data and all of these questions about applicant tracking systems, I wanted to really dive deep. So I created this report. I looked at all of these top applicant tracking systems. I talked to hiring managers and recruiters at Amazon and Microsoft and other large companies, Fortune 500 companies. And I really went and did a deep dive here. Now, there are some tools that are experimenting with AI ranking and filtering services, but by and large, a lot of these tools are not actually automatically screening and rejecting candidates using AI. One of the reasons we know this is actually Workday is one of the major applicant tracking systems, and they've been in the news lately because there's been a lot of lawsuits against them for discrimination, for misuse of AI. Yes, there's these kind of parsing tools to how your resume looks to the recruiter or hiring manager on their side. These hiring managers and recruiters reported to me that, yeah, it can be, difficult to use Workday on their side of things as well. But your resume always comes through. So you can always use a PDF. And regardless of the system or service here, we have no data that correlates that, like, using a Word doc versus PDF, using a PDF is just fine. And most of these tools do just fine. And if they do have a problem parsing, the recruiter or hiring manager can always see the original resume. So that's not actually the issue. You might be wondering, like, what is the issue if, and again, we can share access to this report. I know we have just a short amount of time here today, and I want to pause in a couple minutes here for questions. But one of the biggest things, one of the big key takeaways after all of this analysis, after looking through applicant tracking systems, is most of the time it's these knockout questions, not keywords, not automated filtering, that will automatically reject you from a role. So a knockout question is one of those questions that shows up when you're putting in your resume, when you're filling out your application. They might ask things like the total number of years of work experience. They might ask about your visa sponsorship. Sometimes it's like just about whether whether you're able to work. So they'll ask like some key questions, a handful of questions. Those are automated systems, and your answers to those additional questions can trigger automatic rejections. So that is by and large the most likely candidate for those Tuesday 2 a.m. Rejections. What can we focus on? What can we do as individuals going through this job experience? Rejection is the name of the game. It does happen. This is a sales process. You're selling your labor, right, in exchange, for a salary, and we do see more rejection than not, right? And you're not alone. Like I said, 5 to 10% application to interview conversion rate, 1 in 10 to 20 applications converting to an interview is a great conversion rate. That's you're doing really well. You're above the average. And so, you are going to face rejections here. You are going to face those adversities. So if I can kind of summarize everything that I've learned through all of these millions of applications that we've analyzed and all of this data that we've collected, it is this. apply to 10 to 20 jobs per week with a well-tailored resume that matches the job description. Really make sure you're doing your work that Carrie mentioned, keeping your LinkedIn looking really good, showing the value there, being visible is really important, and reaching out to that hiring manager, that recruiter when you're applying. Don't just rely on LinkedIn as a job board. Actually, we found that going to the company website, directly to the company website, is one of the best ways to apply to jobs. So not on LinkedIn Easy Apply, not on Indeed's new Easy Apply. Even just go to Google, type in the jobs that you're looking for, the location, scroll down. You should find this jobs section here. Open that up and filter by the last 24 hours. So find jobs that have been posted that are relevant to you using Google. Every job on the web is indexed by Google for SEO purposes. So everybody wants their jobs to be seen in this search database. So Google is de facto the biggest job board in the world, and a lot of people don't know that. Then scroll through, and then you're finding jobs that are actually posted, directly on the company's websites. AAA right here, right? So like find those jobs. This one was posted in last 17 hours. If I was looking for an account executive job, I'd be applying to this role, because my grandfather had a saying: if you follow the crowds, you're going to end up standing in line a lot. And what that means in job search is, if you're applying to the jobs that are a remote job, and it's posted on LinkedIn and it's getting 1,000 applicants, and it was posted 2 weeks ago after being reposted before, it's just going to be a really low application interview conversion rate. Very few people are going to be getting through that interview round. You've got a lot of competition. So finding those niche job boards, finding those hyper local, applying to those 10 to 20 jobs, well-tailored resume, have that LinkedIn ready, message the hiring manager, follow up. And then if you're not seeing results after 50 applications, pivot. Go reach out, ask for help. Don't job search alone is a community that I really like. The concept, right, of being here. This is what you all are doing right now, right? Is saying, hey, let's get resources, let's get insights, let's talk to folks that have been there and have gone through this. And let's pivot, let's make changes. The biggest thing that we see is consistency. If you're consistently applying, if you're following up, you might have seen in my job, just to kind of summarize and finish off here, is that we actually saw in our Huntr data that the average time to first offer fell in the past quarter here. Now, this is my own conjecture, this is my own opinion. But what I think is happening, based off of our Bureau of Labor Statistics data, which is showing some indications that people are dropping out of the workforce or leaving. Those that are staying, those are consistent. If you're persistent, if you're optimistic, if you keep working at it, we see positive results. So reach out for help if you need. Connect with me on LinkedIn. I try to do 20 free job search or 20 free resume reviews. I start my morning with free resume reviews. As we build tools, as we use AI to support job seekers, we recognize that AI is not the one-all, be-all solution. It really is this human in the loop. Jobs are human-to-human connections and relationships. I don't see that changing. I see AI as tools that we can use. If hiring managers and recruiters have AI working for them, I believe that job seekers should have AI working for them as well, and that we can support each other with that. So with that, Jessica, I'd love to pause and see if there's any questions or anything that I can help answer in the next couple of minutes.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sam. There is lots of chatter on the chat going on right now. So I think if you have a few minutes to jump over there and kind of address some of those as I'm closing out, that would be awesome. The information you have is so great. So if you could drop in the link to where people can find this. One of the really cool things about Sam is make sure, like he said, to follow him on LinkedIn, because he puts these reports out regularly. And also a lot of really good data and information. And so I would encourage you all to follow him. Great. Thank you for putting that link in there. And Kitty, great. Put his LinkedIn URL. Great. Thank you guys so much. So if you have not been in the chat, open it up. for a few minutes here and just connect with a couple people, Sam being one of them, and then also on his website, and you can get that information for the research. So great. Appreciate you. How about a round of applause virtually for Sam? Sam will be here during our breakout sessions as well. He has a hard stop at 11. So when we go into breakouts here in a few minutes, if you want to have a few questions for him, jump over to his room before the 11 o'clock time. Okay, you guys, I want to go ahead and close it out here for the last couple minutes. If you have any feedback for us, any other topics you'd like us to, or you'd encourage us to include, if you could send an email to us at our contact at Career Connectors email. And then we do have some resources for you. So I had mentioned earlier, we'll be sending out an email after this event, and it's queued up to go in about an hour. And what will be included on that is a link to our recaps, our playbacks, the webinars. So it usually takes a couple hours for this call to render. And so once this call renders, we upload it to YouTube and it will be available to you usually by this afternoon or evening. As well, on that email as well includes a link to a DISC assessment, which is a free tool that you may use. You'll learn a little bit about your behavior style. You have 10, 15 minutes to answer some questions, and then it'll send you a 24-page report that tells you about your ideal work environment, your behavior style. And so it's just a great tool to use to learn a little bit more about you and kind of the jobs that you're targeting and how to really target the jobs that are going to be a fit for you. And then, of course, all of our social media. I want to thank the people here today from the Resume Writers and Coaches Association. And so some of them have been answering questions. April, I saw on here, and I saw Donna on here. And Carrie is also part of the Resume Writers and Coaches Association. This group is a wonderful organization and has been supporting Career Connectors and this entire community for almost the whole time I've been doing this work. So for 17 years, we're so grateful for you guys, and thank you for volunteering your time to be here today. So you may meet with some of them in the breakout rooms as well. And then we do have Best Companies AZ on the line today. Sydney is here, and Best Companies is an organization that supports award-winning employers. So employers based in Arizona, but many of them have jobs all over the country, both local, on-site, and then remote positions. And here are a couple examples of some of the companies that they represent. So if you have any questions about these jobs or companies, please go talk to Sydney in her breakout room. And then here's an example of some of the awards that they represent. So, Fortune World's Most Admired Companies, Arizona's Most Admired Companies as well, DEI, Fortune 100 companies, and so all kinds of organizations are available for you to talk to with Sydney. All right, so for our upcoming events, we have 2 virtual events. We have one every month. And so the September one is September 10th, and that one is Pivot, Don't Start Over, leveraging your existing skills for where you're going next. And then we're going to hear from Career Blind Spot. Oh, shoot, and I forgot to update the slide. So we're also going to hear on Thursday, October 8th, is the topic is around if you're transitioning from one career into another and how to identify that and really make sure that you're targeting the right skill set. So that will be on October 8th. We also, and that's not one on here, but I wanted to mention, if you are in Arizona or near Pinal County, next Wednesday, there is a career fair in Pinal County, and we'll have employers, hundreds of jobs available out there. It's initially what we launched it to support a big layoff that's happening in that community, but we have opened it up to the public. So everyone is invited, and you can find that information on our website. Okay, if you are a woman and an up-and-coming leader, or you know a woman or an up-and-coming leader, this one is specific to Arizona. We are launching the 2027 class and cohort of Inspired Lead Her. And so you can get more information. This one is a fee-based program that has also a fundraising component. So just wanted to be clear about that. This is not, this is only between 30 and 40 people will be joining this program. We do it every single year. And so again, up and coming leaders are the target for this. And then we do have a career coaching program That is an online tool, and that you can find at pathways.org. All right, you guys, so much great information today. I want to just thank you to the team that is volunteering and that is here. So our Zoom support is Sheila. Of course, I mentioned the RWCA, and then many of the coaches that are going to be in our breakout sessions here in a few minutes. Thank you so much for being part of this organization, this event. Career Connectors is a 501c3 nonprofit. So when you do land your next career, if you want to pay it forward, we're always open to any kind of donations. Thank you again. What we're going to do is jump over to the breakout sessions. And the breakout sessions are a time when you can go into those various rooms and talk to the different speakers and the coaches that we have. And so in just a minute, Sheila will be launching the breakout rooms, and you will find them on the bottom of your screen. And so often there might be a more button on the most up-to-date current version of Zoom. There is a more button, and then there is an icon that'll say breakout rooms. Once the rooms are open, sometimes the breakout room shows up at the top, right there at the bottom. And so you can go ahead, they just opened, and choose a breakout room. So once you scroll to the breakout room or get to the breakout room button, you will see an opportunity to join a breakout room. And so join the breakout room, it's a blue button, and you'll go into that room. You can leave the room at any time, go into a different room. And if you have any problems at all of getting into a room, just type it in the chat, or you can also unmute yourself. But it's really easy for us to connect you to the room if you type it in the chat where you want to go, and we'll put you into that room. So thank you all for being here today. We will have the rooms open until 11:30, but when you're done in the breakout rooms, we are done. You can go ahead and drop off the call. Thank you all so much. Thank you. Okay. Let's see. We have all of our speakers moved. Carrie, do you see the breakout rooms?
There's a couple Carries on here, but it says Carrie not joined. I think that's the one I need to go to.
Nope. So scroll. You